Hello and welcome to the DebtCircle Sundown brief for the 11th of August 2026. Let's take a look at the key developments across India's debt and fixed income markets today. Top 5 highest yield listed corporate bonds leading the listed corporate bond market on yield is Monado Financial Services Private Limited with a yield of 17.00% and a trade value of 12.00 lakh rupees. Next is Regency Fincorp Limited, offering a yield of 16.00% with a trade value of 55.90 lakh rupees. Unifins Capital India Limited recorded a yield of 15.90% with a trade value of 5.00 lakh rupees. Another bond from Unifins Capital India Limited offered a yield of 15.65% with a trade value of 4.30 lakh rupees. And Monado Financial Services Private Limited recorded a yield of 15.60% with a trade value of 0.10 lakh rupees. Top 5 highest yield unlisted corporate bonds. In the unlisted corporate bond segment, FDPL Finance Private Limited topped the list with a yield of 16.00% and a trade value of 4.00 lakh rupees. Pocket Financial Services Private Limited offered a yield of 15.00% with a trade value of 50.00 lakh rupees. Big Comfort Collection Private Limited recorded a yield of 14.62% with a trade value of 7,500.00 lakh rupees. Vadraj Cement Limited offered a yield of 14.50% with a trade value of 2,500.00 lakh rupees. And Apex Homes Private Limited recorded a yield of 14.00% with a trade value of 4,001.67 lakh rupees. Mutual fund debt transactions. Moving to mutual fund debt transactions, gross purchases stood at 0.00 crore rupees, while gross sales were also 0.00 crore rupees. The net investment stood at 0.00 crore rupees. For August, month to date, net investment stood at negative 23,851.250 crore rupees. FPI debt market investment. Now, looking at foreign portfolio investor debt market activity. Under the general limit, gross purchases stood at 786.27 crore rupees. Under VRR, gross purchases stood at 39.66 crore rupees. Under FAR, gross purchases stood at 324.77 crore rupees. For gross sales, the general limit recorded 267.82 crore rupees. VRR recorded gross sales of 68.88 crore rupees. And FAR recorded gross sales of 292.15 crore rupees. Net investment under the general limit stood at 518.45 crore rupees. Under VRR, net investment stood at negative 29.22 crore rupees. Under FAR, net investment stood at 32.62 crore rupees. For August month to date, net investment under the general limit stood at 1,894.35 crore rupees. Under VRR, it stood at negative 5.88 crore rupees. And under FAR, it stood at 244.04 crore rupees. Looking at calendar year 2026, year-to-date net investment stood at 58,331 crore rupees under the general limit. For VRR, it stood at negative 13,296 crore rupees. And under FAR, year-to-date net investment stood at 39,542 crore rupees. Money market rates. In money market rates, the call rate stood at 5.09%. The T-repo rate stood at 4.98%. The basket repo rate stood at 5.10%. And the special repo rate stood at 4.92%. India government bond yields. Moving to India's government bond yield curve. The 1-year yield stood at 5.81%. The 3-year yield was 6.22%. The 5-year yield stood at 6.40%. The 7-year yield was 6.69%. The 9-year yield stood at 6.79%. The 10-year yield was 6.78%. The 15-year yield stood at 6.99% and the 30-year yield was 7.42%. T-bill yield and auction cutoff for Treasury bills. The 91-day yield stood at 5.28%. The 182-day yield stood at 5.55%, and the 364-day yield stood at 5.70%. Liquidity indicators. Looking at liquidity indicators, net liquidity injected stood at negative 329,995 crore rupees. The standing deposit facility, or SDF, stood at 178,366 crore rupees, and the marginal standing facility, or MSF, stood at 2,852 crore rupees. MIBOR OIS rates. Moving to MIBOR OIS rates, the 1-year rate stood at 5.80%, the 2-year rate was 5.99%, the 3-year rate stood at 6.11%, and the 5-year rate was 6.31%. Modified MIFOR rates. For modified MIFOR rates, the 2-year rate stood at 6.95%, the 3-year rate was 6.97%, the 4-year rate stood at 7.04%, and the 5-year rate was 7.12%. Currency rates. In currency markets, the US dollar to Indian rupee rate stood at 95.33 rupees compared with 95.30 rupees previously. The euro to Indian rupee rate stood at 110.03 rupees compared with 110.10 rupees previously. The British pound to Indian rupee rate stood at 128.74 rupees compared with 128.66 rupees previously. The Japanese yen to Indian rupee rate stood at 0.60 rupees, unchanged from 0.60 rupees previously. And the Chinese yuan to Indian rupee rate stood at 14.15 rupees, compared with 14.12 rupees previously. Commodities and indices. In commodities, 24-carat, 99.9% purity gold stood at 15,513 rupees per 10 grams, compared with 15,197 rupees previously. Silver stood at 2,550 rupees per 10 grams, compared with 2,450 rupees previously. Crude oil stood at $87.56, compared with $84.96 previously. The Sensex closed at 78,154.25, compared with 78,542.44 previously. The Nifty stood at 24,471.70, compared with 24,583.80 previously. India primary issuance, corporate bonds. Finally, let's look at India's primary issuance of corporate bonds. Nuvama Wealth Finance Limited raised 350 crore rupees with a tenure of 22 months and a coupon of 9.15%. The credit rating is AA, assigned by ICRA Limited. TVS Motor Company Limited raised 1,000 crore rupees with a tenure of 39 months and a coupon of 7.28%. The issue carries an AAA rating from Care Ratings Limited. Bajaj Housing Finance Limited raised 750 crore rupees with a tenure of 37 months and a coupon of 7.53%. The rating information is not provided. Navi Finserv Limited raised 350 crore rupees through multiple tranches with tenures ranging from 19 to 36 months and coupons ranging from 10.30% to 10.75%. The rating information is not provided. Bajaj Finance Limited raised 1,115 crore rupees with a tenure of 39 months and a coupon of 7.78%. The issue carries an AAA rating from CRISIL Ratings Limited. Ashok Leyland Limited raised 300 crore rupees with a tenure of 24 months and a coupon of 7.50%. The issue carries an AA+ rating from ICRA Limited. And finally, Avance Financial Services Limited raised 100 crore rupees with a tenure of 13 months. The coupon is not provided and the issue carries an AA rating from India Ratings and Research Private Limited. That's all for today's DebtCircle Sundown brief. Stay informed, stay ahead, and keep tracking the debt markets with DebtCircle. I'm Leela, signing off.